Welcome back. It's Business 101 and my name is Platinum Kim. Exciting times ahead to talk about the world of business and which area to talk about other than the tech sector. Today we're looking at tech in Africa and the startups in Africa. One of those conversations today will be centered around what is happening with the unicorns, how they're performing, big companies. And one of those recently big company to mention in that direction would be Moniepoint, but we'll go into details of all of it. And other conversation would center around the growth of the tech industry, how startups are faring in Africa, Nigeria, and Akwa Ibom. Recently there was a tech fest in Akwa Ibom. It would be also part of the conversation I will talk about. I have a tech expert, CEO of Innovation Hub, being part of the mix this evening. Mr. Hansen, welcome. So good to see you.
Thank you very much.
It's been a long time we had you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Well, amid the high cost of living in Nigeria, many people think it doesn't affect the tech people.
That's not true. That's not true. It affects everyone.
Okay, it affects everyone. Let's get to the thick of a conversation now. We began this conversation looking at Google support to Nigerian tech entrepreneurs and founders in that direction. So let's begin here now. Mr. Hansen, you saw the introductory part of it when we were talking about it. Yeah. And one concern comes to me. The first question that comes to my mind while I'm going through all of this about Google support to Africa and tech businesses, it has been the growth of tech sector in Africa. It seemed to be exploding looking at comparatively with the rest of the world, where the rest of the world was and where Africa was and how Africa is trying to catch up. First question for you would be, what is that driving factor for big firms like Google that are looking at Africa and spotlighting certain tech companies in Africa and startups and trying to encourage them, putting in lots of fun in the tech sector? What's our gain in that direction?
Yeah, so let's look at the world now as a global village. So it's no more Africa per se, but wherever you find opportunities. Okay. And fortunately for us, Africa is the land of opportunities. So whoever that wants to put money so that he can get returns on investment has no other option than to look the African way. So presently the world's searchlight is on Africa, is beaming down here. So it's for us to wake up and polish up those opportunity areas and make them more visible. And the money that's even coming to Africa is not even much. So if someone is giving us $100 million, I think that's still chicken change because of the stake involved. And I also think that if we are also prepared to be able to attract these funds, we can also reposition ourselves so that we can get $100 billion. $100 million is what a startup in India is using to get started. So for all of us in Nigeria to get $100 million, it's commendable, it's a starting point, but we can definitely do more.
Okay. Yep. In other words, Google can definitely do more. And now, one of the talking points, one of the things you've noted has been the fact that now the funding in Africa is still not enough from your standpoint and the stake in Africa. So I begin to ask you, what is the stake in Africa?
So Africa is a land of opportunities. If you want to look at agriculture, let's even start from the fintech. Recently you've mentioned the success story attributed to Moniepoint becoming a unicorn. They are solving problems in Africa. Many Africans are still unbanked, even with the attempt by fintech companies trying to get the unbanked to be banked. They have access to bank accounts and carry out transactions using technology platforms. Could be POS terminals, could be card transactions, could be bank transfer. So before now, these things were not possible. And if there was no GSM in Nigeria, this wouldn't have been possible. If there was no GSM, there would have been no BVN, possibly. And BVN is the one, making KYC very easy and possible for things to be able to go in this route. If there was no GSM technology and if there was no BVN, all these monies we are talking about and are happy to identify with would have been maybe delayed a bit to come, even though they will eventually still come. So there are opportunities. Fintech, because we have plenty of problems there to solve. Right now in Akwa Ibom, there's a whole local government, then there is no bank. There's no bank in that local government, and there's no ATM machine in that local government. So imagine there were no POS terminals. How will these people be buying? And we are crying that we don't have opportunities. No one is able to patronize my business. How will I even patronize your own business if I can't transact with you digitally? Do you understand? So these guys are solving a whole lot of problems. And if you are becoming a unicorn, if it took them 5 years, for example, to become a unicorn, it's going to take them less than 5 years to become something more than unicorn. So the opportunities are en masse. If you look at agri, from crop production to process, we have a whole lot of opportunities. We are not doing well in production because we are still importing food to eat. We are not doing well with processing, and the excuse is that power, we don't have the required infrastructure to be able to process this. How can tech come in? And if you are not able to, where are we even keeping our data? Do you have data? Can we can we independently? It's
a laughter for me. But I can understand because it's been a big concern. Especially, I look at Akwa Ibom, for example, and you begin to think about, do we have an understanding of statistically the population of the state, who is in the state? A big problem, not just for Akwa Ibom, but for Nigeria. You stated so many points looking at it, but what I'm not very clear, it's now, looking at side-by-side the opportunities in the country, and how does it benefit the big stake now? For example, Google, who's putting lots of money in it. How does it benefit them?
So Google is a tech company. They have Google Cloud. They have they are the owners of Gemini. Gemini is one of my favorite Gen AI solutions or platforms. I use it a lot. I use the premium version. So there is a whole lot that will be of benefit to Google, not just Google, other companies generally, if Africa's data is optimized and clean to be online, accessible to make AI more intelligent. So the people that want to benefit from our data will not have business to do if our data is not there and nobody's able to use them dynamically as they would have wanted to use. And we too will still be crying that there are no opportunities because we don't have data. You know, if you are making research now, there are some topics you want to research on. You still depend on data from foreign sources. So people from outside have to come in here, do research, and publish. And we now go out, whether via the internet, to access local data information from. So these things we have to come back, look inward, and no matter how small, identify a particular niche and start making informed decisions. If we depend on informed decision making to be able to carry out any policy or development, that will show us that we are still naked in this aspect, and if we want to solve problems, then we have to make this data available.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about opportunities that are there for many to follow now, especially for the younger generation, because whenever you talk about tech, it seems like the next generation, everyone is swamping towards tech now and neglecting other parts. It seems like other parts have to find our way inside tech. And now let's talk about opportunities in Africa and Nigeria. Recently, there was this tech fest that took place in Akwa Ibom. I know you were a frontliner in that one. Let's talk about homegrown talent in tech industry. Are we going to that point? Because sometimes I get worried. Everything is going to tech. What if something else get to happen? Everyone is diving in that direction. I'm speaking to Sam, social media here, and Sam is saying, come on, tech is the way. Everyone is saying tech is the way. And I'm beginning to feel like old school when I'm not actually. So what do I do now? Must everyone be in tech? And how is the state of tech in the African community so far and in Akwa Ibom?
Yeah, so we have to define tech. I used to have there was a time that talent hunt used to be a thing. So whenever you hear talent hunts, everyone attributed hunting talents to be dancing, singing, comedy. On stage, comedy. Yeah. So if I'm drawing very well with pencil, is that not talent?
Absolutely.
If I'm broadcasting, is it not talent?
Absolutely.
So tech, we have. Before now, tech has been, limited to software development. So developers used to be seen as techies. But today, if you are creating content on social media, you are also leveraging some tech platforms or even skills or tools to be able to create your content, because traditionally, you will need plenty licenses, equipment to be able to disseminate information. But with technology, social media platform to be precise, you are able to, from wherever you are in the world, with your small feature phone, as long as you have a camera and you can edit video using that particular camera, you are able to create content and pass information in a very social and creative way, and that drives traffic to you. And before
so that means I'm not old school.
You're not old school. You're not old school. And the owners of these platforms, they have also deemed it fit to be able to reward you, the owner of the content on their platform, because if we all refuse to create content or post, the platform become useless.
Absolutely.
So to enable us stay there and create content, they decided to come up with what will enable them monetize our own content so that we generate revenue from that. That makes content creation more sustainable.
In getting money from them, the more we're helping them make money. So
that is already an opportunity for young people who wants to get into tech as creators. As creators.
It sounds like they didn't ask tech.
So for the software developers, they are learning how to code. You know, you can become a web developer, you can become an Android developer, AI engineer, data scientist, cyber security analyst, anything you want to be, acquire a tech skill and become that thing. The pathway is already there. Get a mentor. Don't just get in there blindly. Get a mentor, so that a mentor is someone who spent maybe 5 years to become who he is, and you like him, you want to be like him, and with his help and mentorship, you are able to become him in less than 3 years or less than 5 years per se. You know, so if you go on your own, you may spend 7 years and you don't still become that thing. So having a mentor is very, very key and important to you getting into tech or even staying in tech. So away from content creation and software development, people are designers, UI UX designers, designing software products. It could be mobile, could be web. You know, we also have hardware developers, people that are manufacturing hardware. You know, anything that is, you need a hardware solution. We don't have to be waiting to check whether that thing is available to be bought, to be downloaded. You should be able to upload if it is not available. What the ones you have been downloading, what if no one uploaded them? You know, so that mindset, enough of being consumers, let us also produce, manufacture, so that other people can buy and we also have money. All these forex challenges we are having, no dollar in the country, blah blah blah. If we are exporting, dollar will organically come in. You will have dollar, the country will have dollar, everyone will have dollar, and life moves on. So away from all this, there is also opportunity for investors. So someone like Blyden that has so much money.
I'm paying lots of money.
There is opportunity for investors. You know, you can invest. And when you are investing, you should invest in viable startup ideas, not just you want to support somebody or invest in something. No matter how passionate you are, there are frameworks, there are structures you need to leverage on and depend on to be able to validate ideas and invest in these ideas so that the world can be a better place. And that world is in your Akwa Ibom State.
All right. And now that you said the world is in your Akwa Ibom State, let's look at now historically. If you look at Akwa Ibom, where we began in terms of tech development and how far we've gone, would you say tech growth could be how many years in Akwa Ibom in terms of where it started, growth level, and where we've gone to? I'm saying this taking cue from the tech fest that took place in Akwa Ibom recently, and then compare with the rest in Nigeria, and moving forward the rest in Africa, and even further the rest in the world.
Okay, so between 28th October and 2nd November 2024, we hosted Akwa Ibom Tech Week 2024. It was at Ibom Hotels and Golf Resort, and it attracted, we had events from Monday to Saturday. It was a whole week. We attracted a whole lot of activities.
Well, let's go to history first. Yeah. Let's go to history of Akwa Ibom in terms of tech now. Yeah, so where have we been? How have we grown?
So that's where I'm going to. So this event wouldn't have been possible if we did not in 2011 because pre-2011 we were working in silos. I was a developer in my corner. I did not know what any other person is doing in his own corner. That person also thought he's the only person in town. So we were not able to synergize and create more impact or even attract opportunities. So we decided to start a community. We called it Google Technology User Group then. It was launched in November 5, 2011 in Uyo. So with support from Google, we were able to come together and leverage Google technology in solving local challenges and using that to build capacity of young people. And that created opportunity for them, and they were getting jobs and relocating abroad or even staying here and working remotely. So between 2011 and 2024, we have grown beyond just a smaller community to embrace the whole Akwa Ibom, and that has led to the establishment of tech hubs. Like right now we have over 13 tech hubs in Akwa Ibom State. So in 2021, we started hosting Akwa Ibom Tech Week. Enough of small events that was just one day events, one weekend events, boot camp, startup weekend, and so this tech week started in 2021 We did not hold in 2022. It was pre-election year. So 2023 was last year at 4 points. Then this year, the grandest. So we are looking forward to something even more greater in 2025. Yeah.
Quite massive. Akwa Ibomites coming together, hosting the Tech Week, and it makes sense. It was something we really talked about. We spoke about in Spectrum TV. But let's move forward now. The growth of Akwa Ibom tech community sounds like moving from 2011 and upward now, comparatively to where we are. Nigeria as a whole, as a structure in tech. Where is Nigeria in tech compared to the rest of the world?
So Nigeria
or probably start with compared to the rest of Africa, because recently I saw a report that Kenya was overtaking Nigeria. So then we'll talk about African techs.
Yeah, there are different data sets that we can leverage on to analyze. But in terms of funding to startups that are coming to Africa, between 2010 and today, we've funding into Africa is about $20 billion US. And in 2022 alone, Africa received $5 billion in funding. And I think 30% of that came into Nigeria alone. Nigeria has been taking a hold. So the big four in African continent is Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Egypt.
Okay.
And Egypt. Those are the big four in terms of funding in Africa. And there is also recently a report from TLP Advisory, a venture capitalist law firm, that says that in the last 10 years, 49% of funded startups in Nigeria are generating revenue less than 10 million naira annually.
Say that again.
So, for almost half of the funded startups in Nigeria are generating less than 10 million naira or $6,000 in revenue annually. So it means that my company is we have not received any funding. We've bootstrapped. We have generated more revenue than companies, startups that are funded. When I say funded, like in dollars, in thousands.
I can understand. Yeah. It brings the next question: why?
So there is this thing about funding and using the funds, investors' funds, to pay salaries and operate the business, and the business is not generating revenue.
In other words, not really grounded.
But you're in the news.
Not really grounded as a business.
You're inspiring others.
You're
inspiring me to go and do the work and generate revenue. Whereas you are in the news generating funds, but you're not generating, getting investment, but not generating revenue.
It doesn't sound different from regular businesses now, because most often than not, someone would look at tech firms and think that it's all smooth and easy for them. Lots of tech firms are making lots of money. And now if you talk to somebody and you see someone looking all rich and young and say, definitely the person is a tech guy. Lots of ladies want to marry tech guys these days. Well, I'm just joking, just joking.
You're not joking.
But let's look at the detail of it now, because at some point I began to think, what is that fundamental thing that makes it so different from some tech companies that are not getting all the funding, becoming successful, and the ones that maybe, for example, Google in quote, looked at them and thought that these tech, they're doing something wonderful and they got funding and they're not making money?
So if you are solving problem and you have a market and you know your customers, it's easier for your customers to use your solutions and they're happy and they keep on using it. But if you do not define who your customers are, you don't even know them, or you've not been able to take ownership of the problem you are trying to solve with your solution, you may be having issues. Some people blame, in that research or survey, they blamed their challenges, they attributed the blames to economy, inflation, and also lack of capital.
Yeah.
But I don't believe
despite being funded?
Yeah, despite being funded. You know, you may be looking for $1 billion, but you get $100 million, something like that, so they can use that as an excuse. So there is capital. I believe there is capital. There is always capital. But what the nature of your business, what type of capital are you looking for? Do the capital that is available for you, is that capital aware that you are there and you are looking for that capital? You know, some people look for capital in the wrong direction.
Is the capital aware that you are there?
Yes, because the capital has to be aware that you are there, and the capital is the one to even come to you, not you going for the capital. So it's neither here nor there, because you can also know you can also, the capital can know you, and you also know the capital is there, and there's handshake, and yet nothing happens.
It's just the terms for me. The capital can know you, and there's handshake. Lots of terms there. Well, nice, go ahead.
So a whole lot of things come to play. Government, politics, policy, which is why I am very big on policy. I advocate a lot because for the business ecosystem to thrive, you have to work hand in hand with the government, the legislators. They don't practice tech. They don't see what's coming tomorrow. So we need to come together and co-create policies that will enable our businesses grow. Any business person, any startup founder that is aloof there, you know, building startup and not working with government legislators, you know, to create policies that will enable the businesses to survive, you will keep on having complaints and excuses.
You'll keep on having complaints and excuses is the conversation. And quickly, let's look at what digital skill is all about. When we talk about digital skills and digital economy, I hear that all the time in news. Many people are wondering, what is it all about in specific? Digital economy, digital skills.
Yeah, everything has gone E. Anything we do, you know, you will be hearing E this, E that.
Absolutely.
So the same way we have skills, naturally, you know, we have E or digital skills, you know. So the skills that enable you to use computer or your mobile phone to manipulate data online or over the internet, or even electronically, not just with internet. Those are skills that we need to be able to get hired or stay relevant in the digital economy. If you cannot take a picture and post or send an email, then you have a long way to go. There are opportunities everywhere. As we are right here in this studio, someone's job could be to take my pictures and write good stories and post somewhere, and people engage, and you earn a salary for it. So if you are looking for people to create this kind of content and you don't have the skills, then you are out of the market already. You know, people cannot send emails, you cannot schedule events on your calendar or for somebody as a virtual assistant. You cannot create PowerPoint slides. I'm not even going to the advanced ones like creating software, you know.
Okay, go ahead. Just go from the simple ones to the advanced
or mobile apps. These years, we talk about AI, and so before you can talk about AI, data is a thing, and we need to be able to analyze our data, make sense out of it, and make informed decisions. So there are some data sets I can have access to, and I can predict what the world will be like in 20 years from now, in 10 years from now. Not just the world, any other thing. That's how powerful data can be. I can look at some data sets and change my business idea. Or change my direction. I was supposed to travel. I'm not traveling again because of what I'm seeing in this data. So data analysis, cyber security, those two are competing. Which one is number one today? Which one is number one tomorrow? You know, so data analysis or the analytics skills is very, very highly in demand globally, and people are rushing to acquire these skills. And one thing I have discovered is that there is no person that has a tech skill or a digital skill that is idle. Nobody.
Okay.
If you have a digital skill, you are not idle. You are very, very busy, engaged. Most of the time, when they come to hire you to go and have a full-time job, you say no, that your hands are already, you're already working for 3 companies.
Okay. And now you're talking about big now. No wonder they say tech guys are doing quite well. Working for 3 companies, that's something now, especially, and you're not working officially as a job.
Yeah.
But let's look at one of those things you mentioned that caught my fancy was this now. You said the skills are there, opportunities are there for many people. It starts from maybe your ability to take photographs and even increases further to making software and the rest. But many people are saying they've got the skills from a business point of view. They've got certain skills, but they're still not very successful. What could be wrong? What do they need to change?
So if you're not successful, I think you need to change, look at yourself again. You may need to change your cycle, or maybe you didn't have enough information, or you don't have enough information. You know, for example, during Akwa Ibom Tech Week that just ended, we are working with Rapid River, a company in the US that came for Akwa Ibom Tech Week last year, 2023. When they came, they hired about 30 people, and their salary were, let me not mention their salary, it was in millions.
Okay.
So, and these people are from here, they are living in Uyo, you know, and they are working remotely for companies abroad. This year, 2024, during Akwa Ibom Tech Week, Rapid River came back, supported the events, participated in the events, and also got a physical office space in Uyo where they are hiring and keeping developers. Between now and 5 years from now, they want to hire 500 developers and paying them as if you are working for
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on.
So there are opportunities.
All right, the opportunities. Let's talk about the challenges of techs or startups in Africa in the tech sector now. What are the key challenges? I know we've had a similar conversation before, but now the conversation would not, because it sounds all easy and smooth until you go inside and you realize it's a lot more difficult than you're thinking of. There are many other tech companies or tech startups or firms that are ready. There are others that are struggling, others are not. What do you think is the biggest challenge for techies in Nigeria?
So limited access to infrastructure, not just in Nigeria, even in Africa, our continent, we have infrastructural challenges. You know, I don't know why we've not been able to solve that problem, but it's a huge challenge. We are still struggling with internet, you know, proper internet connection. We're still struggling with that. We don't have that power is still an issue. So even though some developers that are earning well, they are able to set up solar power for themselves. And these days we are using Starlink, you know, in the absence of broadband or fiber. And Starlink too is even affordable. You can also use that as an excuse. Because
well, Allende has some issues recently
yes,
with regulators. But
yes, but I'm sure they will sort themselves out. So
Elon Musk has a way of sorting himself out.
Infrastructure has been a challenge. And funding, people have been complaining about funding. If you meet the funders, they say they don't see where to put in their money. If you meet the founders are saying they are looking for capital. Capital says they have not seen where to put it. So we have to also, so it's time for founders and investors, venture capitalists, to really come together and co-create what they will, or what is fundable. That way, a founder X, maybe in fintech space, should stop looking for investment from agri-inspired investor, you know, because there are people that will only invest in fintech. They can never invest in agri-tech or health tech. There's people that can only do health tech investments, you know.
Naturally, in the space of Nigeria, the moment you talk about tech, people think about fintech.
Exactly.
Fintech becomes so popular because you see the numbers of companies that's related.
We can relate.
Absolutely.
To me, fintech space in Nigeria is already oversaturated. Oversaturated. So someone should think, except there are creative ways you want to solve that particular problem again, but I think you should look elsewhere and allow the people that are solving that problem concentrate with their market.
Okay. One of the talking points from Mr. Hansen has been this, that venture capitalists are looking for fundable projects, and then founders are saying they're looking for capital. And it would lead me to the next question, what is a fundable project? But that would be when we come back from the break, because we have to go on a quick break, and when we're back, the conversation continues, looking at the tech sector in Africa and startups in Africa. What are the challenges? And when we return, we'll also look at different governmental policies where it plays in, and similarly, we'll also look at unicorns in Africa. Don't go anywhere.
The hustle is real, but with hard work, you can become successful. And be your own king. Your wins are worth celebrating with Chelsea London Dry Gin. Chelsea London Dry Gin now comes in a non-refillable bottle with guala cap. Chelsea London Dry Gin. Right spirit, right feeling.
Welcome back. It is Business 101, and my name is Bladder Kim, looking at the tech sector in Africa and startups. A multiple conversation around all of these and the attraction that comes with it, the excitement about tech. But the big question is, what is fundable? Mr. Hansen in the house, Hansen Johnson, who's a tech expert, has been talking to us about the tech sector and the growth of it in Africa comparatively to the rest of the world. Mr. Hansen,
yes.
I want to say welcome back, but good to see you, have you in the show. Welcome back.
Thank you.
It's been a long time you were part of the show. You ought to be part of the show more often from now. But let's get to the talking point. The excitement in the talking point would be about the tech sector now. Before we went on that break, we said, he made a statement that said, well, venture capitalists are looking at fundable project that could be funded. And founders of different startups are saying they're looking for capital. So we start the conversation, the second phase of it from here. What are fundable projects? What are venture capitalists looking at for all the startups in Africa that are thinking to themselves, they want to make it big in tech? Be a techie, probably I might learn from this and get to be a techie now.
Yeah. So fundable projects, there are various ways investors can define that. One of the simplest ways is any project that has the prospect of returning 10x my investment, 10 times my investment.
Okay.
So if I'm putting $1 million, how long will it take for me to get $10 million or $11 million, from this particular investment? So that can be seen as a fundable project. But drawing back home, during Acquirement Tech Week, we had what we call innovation challenges, where we talk to companies to come with their challenges and put a prize for whoever can solve this particular problem. So we had prizes from 1 million naira and above. It cut across aviation, energy, tourism, agri-tech, hardware development. And young people came together to hack on those problem areas. I'm happy to tell you that we've got winners already shortlisted. For example, one of that of aviation was sponsored by Ibom Air. To the problem they wanted to solve was making boarding and disembarking from the aircraft CRJ900 to be very, very friendly and time-saving for persons with disabilities. When you are boarding, they need a particular wheelchair to lift you up to the plane. When you are disembarking, maybe everyone should come down first before you are now coming down. So how can we automate that process and make traveling very easy for persons with disabilities? And your person came up with a solution to that. And who comes maybe next week or after next week, it will be publicly announced. Okay. and the prize will be presented. Beyond that, we will also go ahead to make sure that by next year's Acquirement Tech Week, that particular idea has been developed to become a business, and he will be presenting or pitching a business with revenue during Acquirement Tech Week. So that is a fundable idea. Why? It's solving a problem for a particular industry, and there's already an off-taker on ground that is saying, hey, I'm going to work with you to make sure that we are the first guys to use this, and from there, any other person can use. So I'm just using that as an example. Others might see fundable ideas or projects as something that is viable. So viability is that there is a market for it. You're solving a problem, unique problem. You understand the problem. And there is a team qualified to be able to solve this problem very, very well. Not just any random team. And you have customers waiting for you with evidence saying that, hey, if you just launch today, I am going to use you. And you can demonstrate that there is a market for it. You validate that, not just by demonstrating, you validate that the market is readily waiting for you to launch so that they can use you. Once there are some processes you need to check. Once you validate all this and they are all fine, and you can display or demonstrate a business model that can show us when you become that unicorn, you are fundable.
All right, you're fundable. Meta-analysis, viability, and fundability, all of it being in tandem in this one. One big conversation in addition to what he's saying would be that of the market. How big is the tech market? Let me ask you that, because it seems like the tech market is all about people bubbling with ideas. How big is the tech market? And how do I know it's very big now?
So the tech market is as big as the number of problems we face every day.
Okay.
It's that big. And once it's no more big, then we are not facing problems. Because what's technology? The way we can solve problems, achieve things in a more easier way instead of manually achieving things. We automate things and we save time to go use that time to do some other things. So if we are now if all our problems are solved, then it's no more big.
Okay.
But every solution is creating a new problem.
Absolutely.
So it looks like the tech market is very infinite, you know.
Which in turn brings new leaders
Yeah.
who are solving problems, becoming leaders. Well, an infinite market, he says. One other conversation would be about policy making from government, because you cannot run away from governmental policies. From every kind of business, the policies from government will always affect it. I remember at the time, trading was the in thing. Everyone talking about crypto trading, forex trading, and then government of Nigeria came up with a ban on cryptocurrency. And many people had to sit back and begin to wonder. Remember the situation with Binance in recent times.
Yeah.
So somewhat somehow, no matter how I want to talk about it, trading is part of the tech community.
Sure.
And now let's talk about governmental policies. And from the last time I had you on this show, and that was about over a year ago now, until now, what has been, because I don't want to go back to that conversation we had then, what are the government policies here and there now, what has been the improvement in terms of governmental policies?
At the national level, I give credits to the immediate past governments, that's the Buhari's administration, for signing the Nigeria Startup Act, or Nigerian Startup Bill into law to become an act, right?
Okay.
So we now have Nigeria Startup Act, and that act was created by the private sector, or created by the government with the private sector, you know. Not the government, normally on their own, in their office, create something and say, this is the policy.
Together.
So the government worked closely with the private sector in the office of the vice president to create this particular act today. And the act has given room to what the act, there's a provision for what is a startup. So there's a definition for what a startup is and for how long it can be a startup. There's a definition for who a venture capitalist is, an angel investor is, a tech community, whatever. All these components have been considered. And there is even a committee set aside for labeling of startups. There's even a committee set aside for ensuring that the things that were written in the act are being implemented as was designed. As we speak, we're in talks with the federal government. ONDI, Office for the Nigerian Digital Innovation, is an arm of NITDA, National Information Technology Development Agency. So they are looking at coming to you the first week of December for policy dialogue. Let's see how you can localize the Nigerian Startup Act so that we can have Akwa Ibom State Startup Act, or whatever you want to call it.
Why Uyo? Why not Lagos? Why not Abuja?
No,
Why
they are moving around.
Okay.
They are moving around. They have gone to other states.
All right.
They have gone to other states, yes. So they will also come to you. So this is an opportunity for us to have this industry, government, maybe university collaboration to be able to not just as private sectors create policies that we feel will enable us to do our business, but governments too is there to tell their own part. The academias are there to be able to tell their own part, so that together we can form that tech ecosystem. Because that ecosystem cannot be made up of only industry players. It has to be made up of government, private sector, and the academia.
All right. It has to be made up of everyone to put hands on deck to make sure things work in the tech sector. Well, talking about people coming together, one last conversation, and probably might not be the last, but because we're tilting towards the end of the show, well, let's talk about this one. It would be about collaboration. You've talked about collaboration in Akwa Ibom.
Yeah.
Let's look at collaboration in Africa now, because it seems to be every now and then a Kenyan, a Nigerian trying to do one or two things in that direction.
Yeah.
Now, what's the state of collaboration in Africa in the world of tech?
So I think that's even what has enabled us to get to this point, because initially we didn't really have it wasn't mainstream or that popular that you hear that private sector are able to do stuff with government and there's a result coming out. It could be 1 in 100. Okay, but we had to come together on our own. There's a platform, there's a network of innovation labs in Africa called AfriLabs, so which I am a member. So we are in all the countries of Africa. And every year we choose one African country to have something like Akwa Ibom Tech Week, and we have AfriLabs annual gathering. So that is also a platform for continental collaboration. I've stayed here, I've done something in Madagascar, I've done something Nairobi.
When you say you've done something, in other words, you're helping out in
Yes,
Nairobi,
I have collaborated
Madagascar.
with a project
Absolutely.
in Nairobi,
Okay.
and result came out. I have worked.
So in other words, a strong problem
Yes,
comes up, and
I have-
they look at the tech leaders in Africa and say, look, there's something we want to solve. So what's your idea? What's your intake in it?
Exactly. I have
Massive.
stayed in Uyo and collaborated on a project for Democratic Republic of Congo government, staying in Uyo. So it is this continental platform that gives all this visibility. So they see what you have, what you can offer, and someone says, hey, we have this problem. Let us have that handshake, and you work together. So we have been, without collaboration, we would have been dead by now.
Without collaboration, they would have been dead by now. One last talking point would be the future of tech in Africa. Begin from Akwa Ibom now, moving to Nigeria and Africa. What do you see as the future of tech in Africa? And how do we close the gap between, we're talking about European nations here, the most advanced nations, and African nations? Put that side by side, the future of tech and how we're closing the gap.
So the future of tech, we still have a whole lot of problems to solve. We've not even started solving our problems. So we have a whole lot to do.
Not to interrupt your thought.
Yeah.
One problem comes to mind,
Yeah.
and I'll ask you how we're going to solve
Okay.
it. After this one, just continue.
Okay, we have a whole lot of problems to solve. So we've already changed our mindset and mentality that we are problem solvers. We can't run away. It takes an African to solve his or her own problem compared to a foreigner coming to solve that problem for an African. So we have changed our mindset. We're already prepared for this, and that's why we are doing everything we are doing now. So how do we close the gap? We keep on pushing, we keep on researching, we keep on learning, we keep on sharing. We don't go on at the days we used to cover our books. Now we open our books because we want to collaborate. Because the more we cover our books, the more we keep what a third eye would have looked at it and corrected, and we succeed faster together. So using the lean methodology, starting small, let us think big, but start small, fail fast and succeed faster.
Okay, fail fast and succeed faster. Now I'm going to take, I'm going to try his mind, the tech mind, and see how he can solve this problem for Nigeria. And one big problem for Nigeria, I guess your guess is as good as mine now. Well, food inflation has been something in the country now. High cost of living, such a big thing. How could Nigeria solve this through tech?
Okay, fantastic. I think let me stand on this existing. Let me
Existing protocol.
on this
If you want to stand
protocol.
online, no problem, do it.
Sit on this existing protocol to take ownership of this problem. I'll come back to this place to tell you how I will work with my team to solve the food inflation challenge we are facing in Nigeria. I believe collaboration is still a thing. We should consider the people that are consuming the food stuff. Some people have money they cannot afford. Some people have money cannot access. So if we look at food accessibility and how you can get this stuff at affordable rate to the people, we have first solved a problem for them. Before we go to talk about inflation, what makes inflation comes to play? Are we producing our food? Are we cultivating? But this is so huge such that the value chain is massive.
Absolutely.
But if we
Storage being part
if
of
we
it.
attempt to eat an elephant and take it chunk by chunk, I'm sure we'll be able to. So if I take one chunk of the inflation challenge and inspire another person to take the other chunk, I am sure we would have done something.
Okay.
Yeah. But I promise you, I'll come back here to show you a solution that solves that problem.
All right. Big promise Mr. Hansen Johnson is giving us. That's how they take his thing. They always think they can solve the problem of the country, but massive. I'm looking forward to the existing protocol that you're having, and hopefully it would be anytime soon when you come to give us the solutions to the problem of high inflation and the cost from a tech's point of view of Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. Hansen Johnson, for being a part of it.
Thank you,
Absolutely fantastic. That handshake. I hope that it has to exchange dollars from the tech company. But massive to have you, and we hope
Thank
to
you
have
very
you
much.
some other time.
I
It
look
was a
forward.
swell time having the conversation with Mr. Hansen Johnson, looking at the tech sector in Africa, innovation being part of it, and the startups, and what the future holds. Exciting future for Africa. Well, we draw the curtain here in today's edition of Business 101 till we come your way next week. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Bladon Kim, and we return next week for further conversation in the world of business.